Do you have a strong operational foundation for your food truck business? Whenever any chain is struggling with profitability, they always do two things. Those two things are marketing related and operations related. So for the next two episodes, we're going to talk about those two important subjects. Welcome to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. My name is Bill Moore. I am a food truck business coach, author of 5 food truck vending books, including Food Truck 101 and Food Truck 201. This podcast is all about helping you start and grow your food truck business. Who's ready to level up their food truck game? Then let's talk about Table Needs. They're serving a complete package, a powerful point-of-sale system, built-in QR code menu ordering, a slick KDS, and they even handle your sales tax automatically. But wait, there's more. Their customer support team is like having your food truck BFF helping you grow your business. Visit TableNeeds.com or catch them on Facebook. Most of you know I was lucky enough to work at Wendy's while Dave Thomas was still heavily involved in the day-to-day operations. He came to my store in the Virgin Islands, and we had a lengthy conversation about adding a new product to our menu other than the typical Wendy's hamburger. My partners wanted to add bone-in chicken. Now, there was a reason they wanted to add bone-in chicken. The local people in St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John, they favor fish and chicken over red meat. The thought process was, if we add a product that would encourage more local residents to repeat their visits at our restaurant, then we wouldn't have to be so heavily dependent upon the tourists and the cruise ships. At least that's what we thought. Since we were considered an international market, we had way more menu latitude than any of the U.S.-based Wendy's, and we thought it would be a super easy approval process. So Dave listened to the proposal, and after a few minutes of painfully dead silence, he finally spoke up and he said something that I'll never forget. If you want to take this $5 million a year restaurant and turn it into a $1 million restaurant, by all means, add bone-in chicken. That makes a lot of sense. And then he added why. He had a background from KFC. At that point, I did not know that. I don't think any of my partners knew he actually was a KFC franchisee. And he got to work very closely with Colonel Sanders himself. So Dave Thomas explained to us that we were adding on a labor-intensive product, and it would take away our focus from being the best burger place on the islands. And it would also make us focus on a product that would have zero support from Wendy's. Because remember, whenever you're a franchisee, the franchisor, like Wendy's Corporation, they help provide a lot of marketing material. They produce everything for you and they just ship it to you and they charge you a monthly fee to be a part of that program. But if we were going to add on a product that had nothing to do with Wendy's, we would have to generate our own marketing material, and then that marketing material would have to pass Wendy's quality standard for that particular piece of marketing material we wanted to produce. Now, if you're thinking, well, adding on chickens doesn't require a whole bunch of marketing. Well, it does if you're a restaurant chain, and it should if you're a food truck. For example, we had to have menu board inserts, just listed chicken and the different ways that we would do the piece counts and whatever came with the chicken. We would have to have what's called POP, which is point of purchase material. That's something that's near the registers to remind people that, hey, we've got this new product, you need to try it out. It would also dilute sales mixes, which would impact our inventory control, and we would be doing nothing but guessing. And just like you as a new food truck owner, when you first open, trying to figure out how much inventory to carry is a big challenge. So let me explain the logistics of getting inventory to St. Thomas. Now understand they have no distribution centers. There is no Sysco. There is no GFS. There is not even a restaurant depot. Back when I lived in St. Thomas, there wasn't even a Sam's Club. All the food came from mainland. When I placed an order through Wendy's Corporation, it went to IDI, which is a distribution center in Jacksonville, Florida. They would load up one of their trucks and send that truck to Fort Lauderdale. That process took usually 2 to 3 days from the time I placed the order till it was loaded and then sent to Fort Lauderdale. Then the loading crew in Fort Lauderdale would unload that truck, the distribution center's truck, and put all my product onto a 20-foot shipping container that was headed to St. Thomas. That part of the trip, from the unloading of the IDI distribution center truck to me actually getting the product in St. Thomas, took 5 to 6 days. Once the container was in port, I would get a phone call. So your container's here, it's been offloaded off the container ship. You need to arrange local transportation. That usually took 2 to 3 more days before I could actually get someone to go to the port, which is only like 3 miles from my store, pick up the container, and then drive it and drop it off in my parking lot. So that was a minimum of 11 days from order to delivery, meaning that I had to have enough food in stock in my restaurant to last those 11 days. Once I got the delivery, it would last about 21 days. And what that means is 9 days after I received a delivery, I was having to make an order. So less than half the inventory has been used, and I'm having to think that far ahead. How much food am I going to sell of each individual product so that I don't have too much and I don't have too little? So to put this in dollar perspective, the orders I placed to IDI were generally $80,000 to $90,000. And to place that order, I had to look at least $40,000 worth of inventory to determine exactly what I needed of each individual product. Now, if you're thinking, well, Wendy's menu isn't that extensive, you're right. In 2023, it's not that extensive. But I'm talking about when I worked for them in the 1990s. We had the Super Bar, which was a huge self-serve salad bar with hot food on it. We had 3 different kinds of pastas. We had pasta sauce, and then we had all the different kind of vegetables and breadsticks and the kind of things that you would want to supplement that pasta bar. So I had a whole bunch of products to look at. And every bit of those products came from Florida. We got nothing locally outside of a little tiny bit of dairy, because we also sold breakfast too. Most Wendy's now just restarted breakfast, but I was selling it in the 90s. Now what you got to consider is running out of food at the Wendy's in St. Thomas meant we're out of food. I hate losing sales. I hated it in the 90s. I hate it on my food truck. I don't like turning away people and say, sorry, I'm stupid. I don't know how to order. I'm out. So even though I was generating $5 million in sales a year, losing a $10 sale still hurt. So what's all that got to do with operations? Inventory control is as important to generating repeat sales as is great guest service and delicious food. And remember, if you don't have food, you can't sell it. So let's talk about operations. Operations and getting back to basics is a rallying cry for every company when the sales and profits start to falter. Today, as I'm recording this, Burger King is in the middle of what it's calling a back to basics push in operations and in marketing. When it comes to operations, there's only 4 things you got to worry about. And then there's one managerial area you got to define, set standards, and then beat those standards. So we're talking about 5 things in total to get you back to basics. Those operational areas are quality service, cleanliness, and community. And the one managerial area is KPIs, or key performance indicators. You guys have heard me talk about this before. Well, it's basic stuff. You have to do it. You can't say, oh, I'm better than that, because all you'll do is end up failing. So let's talk about quality. Quality speaks to not only the food you buy, and you want it to be high quality, wholesome, and delicious, but also quality speaks to the cooking standards, the holding procedures, the assembly, and the packaging that you do with each food you send out to your guest. Not only do you need specific and measurable and then duplicatable recipes, and you also need job aids to refer to that outline, and then they remind you of what you wanted in the first place. I sell lemonades and I sell iced coffees. That's just one of the things that we sell in our food truck. I wrote and tested every single recipe for the lemonades and the iced coffees. And every single time I make one, I look at the job aid that I have posted right above that station to remind me the sequence that I wanted the stuff to be applied to that drink. And you're going, well, it's only a cup of ice and lemonade. You're right. But we sell one we call an Ocean Wave. That doesn't tell you what's in it at all now, does it? It has blue raspberry, and it also has coconut. We have a pina colada, pineapple and coconut. We have a drink on the iced coffee line that we call a York. It's the espresso coffee. It is dark chocolate, and it is peppermint flavoring. Tastes like a York peppermint patty. Sells 2 different sizes, so I need to know how much goes in which size. I don't need to be confused by those numbers. I have a job aid, and I wrote the recipe. You need job aids, especially if you got people to train. You can't expect them to remember all of your specifications because they're trying to learn everything, and you learned all your specifications one at a time. Put job aids up. And that's just one thing. Burger King is spending a whole ton of money to revamp job aids and to improve training of the managers and employees. They are seeking to deliver on the promise of a delicious flame-broiled burger. Remember, if your local Burger King's not delivering an amazing product, it's not the fault of Burger King Corporation. It's the fault of the employees, and it's the fault of the management that allow them to bastardize the procedures and not follow them. It has nothing to do with the quality of the food. The food coming in is high quality. What the human beings do within that restaurant is what takes it from being high quality to being not so good. Same on your food truck. Quality is summed up really simply. Hot food's hot, cold food's cold, and the details count. Let's talk about service. Service is not only friendly, but it's over-the-top friendly, injecting excitement into the order-taking process, into suggestive selling. And the key component that a whole bunch of food trucks just flat out miss, that's being fast. 8 to 10 minutes is the absolute longest any order should take. I don't care what you're selling. Don't care how busy you are. You can control the pace of the orders coming into your food truck. That's easy. You can control it based on your cooking capacity and your storage capacity. That's easy. But if you take more orders than you're capable of cooking, you're abusing the people that stood in line, and they will not soon forget. People are absolutely delighted by hot, delicious food that is served faster than they expected. Boil your service standard down to enthusiastic greeting, sincere conversation surrounding that order-taking process, suggestive selling to round out orders, have eye contact, smile while you're talking to your people. Fast does not sacrifice neatness. It does not sacrifice common courtesy. It does not sacrifice accuracy. Practice getting faster. Practice whittling down your times, because those things really do matter to your bottom line. You want to increase your sales? Get faster at handling people. Because guess what? You're able to put more people through during the time that you're open. Cleanliness. That should be simple. Clean as you go. Break down and clean equipment to the manufacturer's recommendations and deep clean frequently. If something is streaked, shine it. If something has dirt under it, move it and clean it. Take a critical eye to your own operation as if you were an inspector, and then fix what you notice. Look at your operation from the outside looking in. What can your guests see? If you leave your back door open, which I don't recommend doing, but a lot of food truck owners do it, what do your guests see when they walk by? Does that appearance inside your food truck, does it reflect a clean food truck, or does it imply a dirty, messy truck? Look at what your truck looks like. Community, what that represents is two things. Your community of loyal fans and the people that you're building on your social media, and then it also is a part of your business being a part of your civic community. You cannot be a leech expecting your community to support you as a business when you do not support the community. Get involved in fundraisers. Be a voice for change in your local government. Join the Chamber of Commerce and learn what other businesses are doing. You wanted a business, act like you have one. Now, KPIs, those are measurements of your own numbers and you working to improve your own numbers. I started out this podcast with how we had to order and receive our inventory at Wendy's. Now, what I left out was how much that shipping container cost, because it wasn't free. In the 1990s, a frozen shipping container cost $2,600 to ship. Didn't matter if it was 100% full of product or only stuck one case on it. $2,600 for shipping. So the challenge in managing my KPI regarding inventory was to ensure that the container was 100% full so that we got our money's worth on the shipping. Also to ensure that what was on the truck was what I actually needed, because I only had 1,004 cubic feet of space on that container to work with. The distributor would send exactly what I ordered, and they would send it to the port in Fort Lauderdale. They didn't care. I could order, and often did order, 100 cases of fries, sometimes 150 cases of fries. They'd send it no problem, plus all the other stuff that I needed. They'd send it. They didn't work out how much space it would take. They would just send it. The loading crew at the shipping container port, they didn't care either. So the distribution center truck parks. They unload the thing, put it in the container, and when it's completely unloaded, off goes the distributor back to Jacksonville, Florida. That left the shipping container crew still filling up my container. Now, if I ordered too much stuff and it didn't fit in the container, they didn't call me and say, hey, you want to buy another container? They just let it sit on the dock because their job was transferring inventory. They got it transferred, paid for a $2,600 shipping container, and they sent it. So understand, if I didn't do the measurement on not only how much money I was spending, but how big all those cases were, I could have a bunch of food sitting in Fort Lauderdale going bad because the shipping container company did not care. They did their job. Load a shipping container, send it to me. That was their job. So whether your invoices are hundreds of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars, that money has to be managed properly. Now, if my staff had decided, we're just not going to pay any attention to the specs and we're going to load up every sandwich with all kinds of mayonnaise and mustard and ketchup and lettuce and tomatoes and all of that stuff, I would have run out of product in between orders. That $80,000 that I would order would have to generate about $300,000 in sales if the staff followed the recipes. And if they didn't, we were out of food. And I wouldn't have enough sales being generated to afford the next shipments. And that's just one KPI you have to learn how to manage. Those are the basics, the foundations that troubled businesses want to get into to save their business. And it happens all the time. Wendy's did it in the 80s. Burger King's done it at least 3 times that I know of, with the most recent one being right now. McDonald's has done it in the past. Other troubled restaurant chains do it. They fall back on foundations as if that's the magic cure. And a lot of times it is. But the question is, how do they get away from those foundations in the first place? So you as a business owner have to have foundations. You have to have them in place in your food truck. Otherwise, when trouble hits, and believe me, it's going to hit, you won't even have the back to basics to fall back on because you never built the foundation in the first place. Thank you so much for listening to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. If you're finding all the information helpful to your food truck business, please become a monthly supporter of the podcast. Just hit the support button or follow the link in the description. Every little bit does help keep us going. Join our Facebook group. It's called Food Truck Training. We have a whole bunch of awesome members at all different levels, from brand new beginners to decades-old veterans. They've all got your back when it comes to helping you with your food truck. And again, thank you for listening. Come back tomorrow because I got plenty more to say when it comes to helping you and your food truck business grow.